There are 10,000 estimated sick from a Salmonella chicken outbreak. This is the second time this year federal officials are warning the public about Salmonella infections associated specifically with Foster Farms chicken. In this latest outbreak, officials have confirmed about 280 cases, according to a public health alert. And the previous breakout, which was in July, just a couple of months ago, the CDC noted about 135 illnesses. Now, they actually have a metric, which is they assume that for every one reported case, 25 go unreported. And based on that, if you take the 280 cases plus the 135, multiply that by 25, they estimate that around 10,000 people have been sickened in the last 12 months based on that multiplier. That's a lot of people to develop food poisoning after consuming a product that is well known to have been contaminated with salmonella. This was traced to raw chicken. The USDA alert and a Foster Farms statement both stress the importance of safe food handling, saying food needs to be cooked, that chicken, poultry needs to be cooked to an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. However, when we actually look more deeply at this, Dr. Katrina Hedberg, who's an epidemiologist, said consumers are actually not to blame. This is not an outbreak because people decided to eat their chicken too rare. This is simply because of too much bacteria. So, Lewis, again, this is interesting because we've been using the example recently of foodborne illness as the culprit of far more deaths in most years for Americans than terrorism, and the disproportionate amount of industry and spending that surrounds the security complex, and disproportionately little attention is paid to things like food inspection, which even because of the shutdown could suffer. Here we're seeing those numbers again, 10,000 estimated sick this year because of salmonella.
Right, and I guess it's a matter, or it should be a matter of priority. But we have our priorities backwards. You know, David, if these terrorists had lobbyists and were over in this country, helping out our politicians, I bet you things would be very different.
They would be drastically different. And the USDA has actually known about this problem for a decade. Oregon scientists have been tracking a Salmonella Heidelberg strain, not to be confused with Heisenberg, of course. First associated with Foster Farms back in 2004. And the reason why they continue selling raw poultry is that you can actually have a 10% incidence rate of salmonella and continue to operate. Does that sound high to you, Lewis?
It does seem a little high. That sounds strange, but might be true, right?
Yeah, it absolutely is true. I mean, factually speaking, you're allowed to have a 10% incidence rate of salmonella. The big thing we need to be focusing on here, though, is remember, foodborne illness versus terrorism in terms of deaths caused, and the disproportionate amount of privacy that has been given up and money of yours, tax money, that has been spent on the one of those two that is actually responsible for less deaths during the average year.